Hi, welcome to this run through of the code as requested in class last week. Okay, this screen is not the one we need. So here we are in Assessment and Learning Analytics, and in the Explore section, we've got an item test bank or a test item bank. So you click on this link, it'll take you to the GitHub for the course. And then bring this code into PyCharm, which I've already done right here. Okay, so your job is to read the code and then get a sense of what it's doing, and then from there see what you can do to improve it, tinker with it, and possibly add it to as the item bank for the computer adaptive testing tutorial and module link that follows this. But start with this. Okay, I'm going to go toward the bottom of it because sometimes it's easier to start at the bottom. So the last thing it's going to do, this is the only line you'll notice. All of this, these are just definitions. So these are functions. Anything that starts def and then it's all indented, that's a function. As you know, there's this one line that adds this dictionary we'll talk about, but otherwise it's importing 3 libraries, which should come standard with Python. And so you don't have to add those packages unless yours says that you need it. Okay, so this line says RR, just a random variable, equals generate item bank, and then we've got a number 39 and the plus sign. So 39 means that's how many items I wanted to generate. We could change this to, you know, if you just wanted 8 items, items would be a test question. And, or you could do, you wanted 2,000 items. And then here you could have addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. We're going to keep it at addition. So let's put it at 20. So then we have to look for the generate item bank function. Should be the bottom one, because any functions you call in this function need to be above it. So sure enough, well, maybe they don't need to, but anyways, here's the generate item function, and you'll see here it says item total. That's the first variable that you pass to it. And the second variable is operator. Okay, so again, down here, line 161, RR equals generate item bank 20. We want 20 items back, and we want them to be addition. Okay, so make an item bank is the comment. So each item is going to be in a dictionary, and the dictionary is going to have what's the first number that's going to be added, the second number, what's the operator, because it wouldn't necessarily have to be addition, what's the answer, and then 3 distractors. And a distractor, as you probably know, is a wrong answer. It's distracting the person taking the test from the real answer. So you want to have distractors that students would actually, you know, get to if they messed up a particular part of the process of doing the math problem. Okay, and then the difficulty level. How difficult is this addition problem? So this example one is just 0. So 0 plus 0 equals 0 under any operator. It doesn't matter what the operator is. And then distractor 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, the values, and then the difficulty level is 0. Because come on, I mean, anyways. So then bank list equals bank, so bank list is a list, and we're going to put bank dictionary in it to start with. So this one here at difficulty 0 is the only item in this list, but we're going to add a bunch of items to it. In fact, we're going to add the number of items that we have up here in item total, which right now we've set for 20. Okay, so put the first item in, check. Then we have, where are we going to start? So when we look at line 134, we have A equals, again, that's just a variable holding the result of this. So we want a range where we're going to start at a start. So we're going to start with number 5. And then the next part is how many, what's the highest number it's going to go to. So it's going to start at 5 and start counting up. How high do you want it to count up? So we wanted to do item total plus the start, a start, because it's starting at 5. If we count it up to 20, it'll give us 15. So we want to add those two. And then we want to multiply it by the step. And the step is, do you want it to count by ones? You would put 1 in a step. But in this case, we're counting by 3s. So we want to multiply by the step, because otherwise it's going to count to 25, but it's only going to get, 5, 8, 11, etc. And when it gets to 25, it's going to stop, and that's going to be less than 20 items. So that's why we multiply here. And then we have the step, which is 3. So range takes 3 variables: the start, when are you going to stop counting, and then the step. And then so it's going to create a list of each of these numbers. And so here I'm printing it because I want to check it. You would get rid of that later, but for now, we'll have it so we can print it. Okay, this is another range. So if A is for the first problem, then B is for, or the first, number. Think about the two numbers getting added together. A is going to be a list of the first numbers added together, and B is going to get a list of the second numbers that we're going to add together. And then, so B's range starts at 1, and its step, as you see here on line 137, is 2, the B step. So then here we have item total 20 plus B start times B step. So 21 times 2. So 42 should be the number it stops at. And then I'm printing the length of this to make sure I have at least 20. Okay. Now on line 141, we set a variable named I, or the variable I, to 0, and we're going to use I to kind of iterate over a list. So on line 142, we've got while I is less than item total minus 1. Okay, so while I is less than 19, in this case, do this. So basically, keep running this code until I is not less than, so until I equals or is greater than 19. You'll notice down here at the end of this while, we add 1 to I. So each time it runs, we increment I by 1. That's how eventually, when it checks, each time it gets to the bottom here, it goes back up to the top and checks I. And so each time it checks I, it's checking the updated value of I against this part of the equation. Again, if we put item total as 2,000, that's 1,999 times, and we get 1,999 test items. Okay, so here we've got, so notice up on top, we've got the bank dictionary, and we ran it and we added it to bank list, which we created. Down here, we're gonna sort of declare bank dictionary and say there's nothing in it, because each time we want to fill it and then we want to pass it or append it to bank list here on 158. So I'm printing I on line 144 just so I can make sure that it's doing what I expect it to do. And if there's a problem, I know when that problem comes, on what iteration, okay? Because this is the part of the code that's doing everything. The stuff before it and all the functions, those are getting called, or it's just setting things up mostly. If there are going to be problems, they're going to be here. Okay, so we've got an empty bank dictionary. And then here we've got DL, which is the distractor list. And we are sending it some information. So distractor list is going to be up here. Right here. Here's distractor list. So distractor list takes the first number that's going to be added, multiplied, subtracted, divided together, the second number, and then what's the operator? Plus, minus, multiply, divide. So that's the things it's expecting to get. And if we go back down here, you'll notice that's what we're giving it. So remember when we set A on line 134 and B on line 138, we created a list of numbers that we're going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide together. So that list starts at 0 for the first item and then goes up until the list is done. So you'll notice down here, when we use I and we pass A in the I place, each time we run this, since we're adding 1 to I each time, starting at 0, the first time it's 0, we're going to get different numbers here that are going to be passed to get a distractor. So A, the ith position in A is being passed, and the ith position in B is getting passed. So the first time we run it, it's going to be the 0 position, and B, the first time we run it, it's going to be the 0 position for the list B. The operator, we're getting that from here, operate, operate. And what are we sending it in terms of operator? Addition. Okay, so this is the distractor list. So what we're going to get back is we're going to get a list of the first, second, and third distractors. You notice here, DL0, DL1, DL2. So each distractor is going to get plopped in here. Okay, so let's go look at distractor list for a sec. Here it is. First number, second number, and then the operator. So you'll remember that in terms of start step, we're starting at 5 and we're starting at 1. So the first one, A in the 0 place is probably 5, and B in the 0 place is probably 1. So 5 plus 1 is going to be what? So first number is probably 5, second number is probably 1, operator is add. Okay, then it says if the operator is the plus sign, do this and return these distractors. If it's the minus sign, do this. If it's the multiply, do this. Divide, do this. And if it's something else, then return an empty list. You'll notice that I haven't done these. So you could generate distractors for subtraction, multiplication, or division. Okay, so here, all it's doing is it's running 3 different, well, it's sending this information to 3 functions. So distractor 1, distractor 2, and distractor 3 are each going to a different function, and they're all 3 being passed the first and the second number. We don't have to pass it the operator because we already know that these are the addition operators. So then we come up here, we've got D3 add distractor, D2 and D1 add distractors, D2 and D1. Okay, in these on line 43, you'll notice that we've got an if statement and then an else if, and then an else. So if this is the case right here, then run this code and this will be the distractor. If this is the case, then check if this is true also, and then this is the distractor. Otherwise, do this. And if none of these, neither of these two are true, then make this the distractor. Okay, so the first one is like old school column addition. You know, you like line them up, you carry the one. Not a lot of kids do it that way these days, but some do. So we want a distractor that's going to mimic the most frequent errors caused by adding in columns the old way. So what this does, it probably looks complicated, it's really not. This is saying, okay, the first number, take the first number, turn it into a string. So remember the first number is 5, okay? And then turn it into a string. So now it's 5 with quotes. And now the -1 is part of that string. So it's saying, give me the last number. In other words, -1 starts on the right. Usually when you say like, give me the first character, it's going to give you the first one on the left. But we want to do the ones place because we know for sure every number is going to have a ones place, but we don't know if every number is going to have a tens place, or if we just go with a 0 or a 1. We don't know what place that is because, you know, we could run 2,000 distractors and end up with pretty big numbers. Okay, so this is saying take the first number, in this case, first time through is 5, and get the first digit in it in the ones place. So that's all we have. So 5, and then it turns it back into an integer again. So we've got the number 5 here plus, and then same thing here. It's getting the ones place for the second number, and then it's turning it into an integer again. So in other words, it's saying 5 plus 1. So if 5 plus 1 is greater than 9, then do this. So in other words, if the student has to carry a 1 in order to correctly answer this question, then in the ones place, then create a distractor where the answer is the answer that they would get only if they forgot to carry the 1 in the tens to the tens place. Does that make sense? So first number plus second number, that's going to be the answer. In this case, 6. And then subtract 10. So if instead of 5 plus 1, this was 8 plus 2, then, or 8 plus 3, which I think would be the next one, then yes, that's going to equal 11. So it's going to be greater than that. So then you'd take 5 plus 3, and then you'd subtract 10 from it. So the distractor would be 1. That might not be as likely, but if you had 28 plus 35, so then you do 8 plus 5, and you'd end up with 13, but you'd put the 3 down and you wouldn't carry the 1 for the tens column. So that's something someone might get wrong. So if in this case, this one doesn't count because 5 plus 1 is 6, that is not greater than 9. So it skips to line 47. Then it checks to see, well, is the first number bigger than 9? And is the second number bigger than 9? So in other words, is this a 2-digit or greater number for each of them? And then if that's the case, check the tens place. Okay, so it's the same as this, except this time check the tens place. If the first number's tens place plus the second number's tens place is greater than 9, then make a distractor that has 100 less. So let's say you were adding 82 plus 55. So they'd add the 2 and the 5, and they'd get 7. And then the 8 plus the 5 will give them 13. But what if they didn't put the 1, didn't carry the 1 over? So they, in other words, would end up with 37 as a distractor. Again, might not be super plausible, but it would be more plausible when it gets into the hundreds. So there's room to improve this. Instead of this, you could put the 9 over here, and then on this side, you could put 99, or you could say, oh, only if it's larger than 99 should this one kick in, or you could have another one like that. And then if this isn't the case, so if they're both bigger than 9, but they don't equal more than 100 in the tens place, so you have to carry the 1. If that doesn't happen, then just take the 2 numbers added together and then do a random range between -5 and 5 with a step of 3. So in other words, do 5 plus 1 would be 6, and then add a number between -5 and 5 where you have 3 in the middle. We don't want 0, because if we add 0 to it, it's going to be the same as the right answer. So that's why this 3 is here. So it'll check. It'll do negative, it might be -5, it might be -2, it might be 1, it might be 4. And then it's going to add that here. Now again, with 6, if it ends up being -5, then the distractor is going to be 1. That's not great. But if the answer is 52 and you get a -5, well, then that moves it to 47. As a distractor, that seems within the range, it seems plausible. Okay, and then that's the same code that's here. So that's how distractor 1 is derived. And then it's returned, so this D1AD is returned from this one. So if we go back down, you'll see that D1 is going to hold the return of it. So then D2 goes out, and D2 uses that, that new system or newish system where if you have to carry something, so if it's, say, 26 plus 36, then you'd draw your line under the columns, and then you'd actually write down 12 on the right hand side and then put a line, and then on the other side you write a 5, and then you would bring those together. So these distractors are trying to mimic mistakes someone would make in that setting. So again, here we're checking line 58, checking to see if there's a carry the 1 scenario, which is the best chance for problems to come up. And so if so, then the second distractor is going to be, so here what we're trying to do is we're taking what the answer is, and then we're taking that first digit, and then so we've got the second number, the first digit from the second number, plus the first digit from the first number. Sorry, let me try this again. So we've got the sum of both together, and then we're going to just take the 1's place of that. And we're going to add that to the 1's place from the first number and the 1's place from the second number. If 9 is, so if first number is greater than 9 and second number is greater than 9, this is just a different way to write what we had here with it, just they're just flipped. It's the same thing though. So then down here, if the second numbers are larger than 9, then we're going to do the same thing as we have up here, but we're going to do it for the second column. And this is different than Distractor 1 because it's trying to target a different problem that students could have. Okay, if that's not the case, then run this, where it's looking for how many, so this is looking for how many places exist. So if the places, so like one's place, tens place, so it's counting them. So it's taking the first number, it's turning it into a string, and then it's checking the length. So how many characters long is it? So it's taking the number of characters long the first number is, plus the number of characters long the second number is, and then it's divided by 2. And the double division sign here means that if it ends up being like point something, just round down to the next number. So if this is 1 and this is 2, then you get a 3 divided by 2, it would round down to 1. Okay. So then I equals 0, and then you have the second distractor equals 0, and then this is just going to add to it. So we want to call it here. We want to declare it. And then while I is less than places, again, we're going to add 1 to I at the end of the while statement. So while I is less than places, then we're going to look at each column and then add it. And if neither of these two is true, then come down and we're going to do the places again. And we're going to do it the same way. It's probably a more elegant way to do it than to have this else be duplicated. And then it returns D2AD, which is the second one. The third one is if you were doing horizontal, and I'll let you see if you figure that one out. Actually, this third one is using estimate. So if the student just uses estimation, so it just says, okay, how many numbers are there? So it's adding them together and it's rounding up to the nearest 10. Okay, and then so if you have a single digit in each, then it's rounding up to 10. If it has 2 digits, so here it's saying if this answer is 2, so if they each have 2 in them, then add them together and then round up to the nearest 10. So it'd round up to 50 or 60 or 80 or whatever. This one, if each one only has 1 digit, these are swapped, but it's fine. It doesn't matter which order they're in. Then either do 10, the number 10. So if it's 8 plus 2, or rather, if it's 8 plus 2, then it's going to check, oh, is the first number plus second number 8 plus 2? Is it 10? So if it doesn't equal 10, then add 10. Otherwise, make it 9. And you'll notice I do the same thing for 3 digits and for 4 digits. Excuse me. And then otherwise, do it for 5 digits no matter what. And then return the third one. So now we've got each distractor, D1, D2, D3, and then it's returning these distractors in a list. So then if we come back down here again, you'll notice right here, this DL, distractor list, this now holds the answers that are right here because that's what is returned on line 106. Okay, after the distractor list is created, then we need to figure out a difficulty level. So we have a function named difficulty finder, and we're gonna pass it, the first number that's added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided by the second number. And then we're going to get a difficulty level back. And then that difficulty level is going to go right down here on line 155. But let's look at difficulty finder. Okay. So this is estimating how hard it is to do the math problem. And so we already have the 0 for 0 plus 0. And then, which conceptually might be harder than 2 plus 2. I don't know. But we could change that. But anyways, so the idea is that as this number goes up, different things are happening. So the 1 on this side pertains to if it's, just a ones place plus a ones place. And then, so here it's saying, all right, if the first number plus the second number is less than 11, so 5 plus 5 might be something a lot of kids know, even though you're going to the tens place, give it a score of 10 for difficulty. So the difficulty value is 10. And then this says, okay, if it's less than 11, anytime the total is less than 11 for the addition, well, this is for the operator, but anyways, on the addition side, then it gets a score of 10. So anything that's not true for, then try this one. And this one is get the length of the first number, the length of the second number, and then divide by 2 if the answer is 1. So if it's 8 plus 7, it's going to be 15. It's not going to pass. It's not going to hit on this one. So let's come to this one. 8 plus 7 would hit here, and it would give it a difficulty value of 11. So harder than difficulty level 10, but not by much. Okay, so then if that's not true, so if it's like 25 plus 22, then neither one of these would hit. And so then go to this one. 25 plus 22, first number, second number, you get 2. The value is 20. And then it checks, so it sets it as, okay, it's at least a 20. That's the floor. Then it checks, is the ones place going to be something where you have to carry a 1? If so, add 1 to the difficulty value. So it'll be 21. If in fact this is true. Then it checks if the tens column plus the tens column is greater than 9, we're going to make it a difficulty level of 1 more. Okay, so if it was 91 plus 92, then it'd be 20. This one would not hit because 1 plus 2 would just be 3. But then on this level, it'd be 9 plus 9. So yeah, we're going to give them 1 more point in terms of how difficult it is. So you'd end up with a 21. So you could end up with a maximum of 22 for difficulty, but you could get a 21 with either of these. Okay, and you could figure out, you could decide, oh, this one is actually harder because it's in the middle of the number, and this one is just adding the 1 in an empty column. So you could decide, or you could do more research to figure out which way is, in fact, according to the empirical research, is more difficult. This third one, or rather the fourth if statement, is just checking to see for 3-column addition. So it sets it at 30, and then for the first, second, sets it at 30, and then for the first, second, and third columns, it checks to see if there's a carry the 1 requirement or regrouping, or whichever way you're doing it. And if so, it adds a 1. So you could end up with a 33 as a difficulty level. And then the same thing for 4. And then anything above that, I'm just assigning a 50. You could be a lot more elegant with this, but this works. Okay, so then it's returning this difficulty value, not as a list, just as a number. So then let's go here. Okay, so difficulty level, that's what we just looked at. And then it's sending it out to that function, and then it's returning a value. So if the value was, 5 plus 1 is 6, that difficulty value would be 10. So the diff level goes here, and that number would be 10. Okay, and then that we've just gone through the whole function, or gone through all the functions that are part of this statement. And then here you've got the bank list. So once we build this for one iteration, one set of A and B, the A and the B list, remember, the first one in that A list should be 5 because we start on 5. First one in the B list should be 1. So 5 plus 1. So then we put 5 goes here, 1 goes here, plus goes here. The answer is calculated here with the OPS, and that is this nifty little thing here, which just does OPS equals, and then this gets the operator. So it's a dictionary where you can't turn you can turn a string into something that can operate, but it's dangerous. It's use the eval, but someone could hack you and they could do stuff to you. I mean, no one's going to hack you, but it could happen. So what this does is it says, oh, if they put a plus in, then you just use the add. And you'll remember that we're only equipped to deal with the add because we have a distractor generator for addition. We don't have anything for subtraction, multiplication, or division. Okay. So so remember, we go through this each time until we hit where I is equal to the item total minus 1. And each time when we build this by going through, and this is uniquely calculated for each set of numbers that are going to, in our case, be added. So the difficulty levels figured out, the distractors are figured out for each time. And then the answers figured out here. Sorry. Yeah, just looking at that operator. Okay, so the answers figured out, and you got the distractor the first distractor from the old school style, second distractor, new school style, third distractors, which is an estimate, and then the difficulty level, which we looked at. And then it takes this dictionary and then it appends it to the bank list, which we started here. So remember, we put the first one, we put this one in it. And then each time we run this, we add another one to this list. We add each one, we create it, and then we add it to this list. And then it loops to the top. It X's out or starts over, erases this bank dict that we just put in there. And then we do another one. Okay, so should we try this? Run it. Okay, so remember we did print. So the first thing that's printing, and you could put print statements that are nice that say this is the A list. But if you know the order, you just be like, okay, so there were 24 items were added to A based on this. We asked for 20. So this list is, going to handle that fine. You don't want to create a list that's fewer than that while loop. Otherwise, it's going to say, hey, I tried to process it and there's nothing in there. So we got 20 and we've got 21 in the print B length. So that's fine. As long as it's 20 or bigger, we're good. Then the next time we have a print is print the I. So what's the value of I? It starts at 0. So yep, first time is 0. We got 0 and then it just counts up until it gets to 18. And then it stops, which is right because it would be 19 is where we have the while statement, right? Item total minus 1. So it's, yeah, giving us 19 and 18 is the last number because we also have a 0, which brings us to 19 total times it went through, which gives us 20 elements because we started with that 0 element. Remember this one, 0 plus 0. So they end up with 20 items. And so if we want to check those items, we can see, sure enough, here's that first one. That's just 0, 0 all the way across, and then 1, 2, 3, and then the difficulty level 0. And then here is here's the second one, which is going to be in position, 1. So I think we can just go here, and if we did RR1, yeah, then it'll just show us, okay, so here's that first one. Remember 5 plus 1? So we've got 5 and 1, and they're added, and the answer is 6. And the distractors are 1, 10, and 10. So that's a problem. We should probably check to make sure our distractors aren't coming back with the same answer. And if one of them is, we should change the other one somehow, right? And then the difficulty level is 10. So let's go farther out. Let's do RR 17 and see what we have there. Okay, here we've got first number is 53. 53 plus 33 is 86. And this one is 16. Another one that's 90. Difficulty level is 20. So having two of them that are the same, that's no good. You notice that it was distractor 2 and 3 that were the same last time, and this time it's 1 and 3. Difficulty level 20. Okay, let's try R18. Let's try R19, see what that is. Okay, so here we've got 59 plus 37. Add them, the answer is 96. Distractor 1 is 86. Okay, forget to carry the 1. Distractor number 2 is 916. This looks like it's way off, but if you do the new school edition, this is something kids that might actually do because They might do 9 plus 6, 9 plus 7 is 16. So they actually write 16 down below the numbers. And then they'll do 5 plus 3 is 8. And so then maybe this one should be 8, 16 instead of 9, 16 as a distractor, but it's got the 16 in it. And then the third distractor is the estimation, which is just 100, which isn't that far off from 86, but it's not super close. Difficulty level 21. 20 because it's two digit, and you get an extra 1 because you have to carry the 1 in one column. Okay, that's this code. See what you can change, what you can fix in terms of distractors, and then see what happens. Maybe you want to try running it. Look at really large numbers. So instead of 20, maybe you want 3,000 items for your item bank. Let's try that. And you'll notice it didn't take very long for us to get our item bank. So here's 3,000 test questions for addition. It's going up pretty big. Here's a difficulty level 44. Yes. 8,999 plus 5,997. And then the answer. And distractor 1 off by just 10. Distractor 2. See, these distractors sort of hang out in more interesting places, right? And here's a third distractor of 15,000. All 3 might be useful on the difficulty level 44. There's a lot of carrying the ones on this one. Okay, that was a very long video on this code that I wrote yesterday for generating an item bank.